Don Lemon says the quiet part out loud. China joins the UN arms trade deal as the US pulls back out of it. COVID is back on the rise. Ilhan Omar wants to dismantle the system. And Kanye West praises Trump. I'm Jay Edgar. Have you forgotten about Hunter Biden and Tara Reid yet? And this is Contemporary. Guys, there is just so much news to get to today. It is ridiculous how much news is there. And on top of it all, DLive didn't want to come up and fire up for me the first time I went live. So those of you on YouTube who are a little bit confused about why there are two uploads with this title at this point, that would be why, because I had to dump the stream and start over again. But we are here and it's time to go. So let's just get down through this because there's so much. But before we get through it, let's head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got Wyatt Birkenhoff and his novel stream. We've got gaming with my streams over there. And we've also got the Generational Gap, Stephen Ignoramus, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Freckles and Brit Show. Come over and check us out. It'll be a great time. We've got some great swag, and you can help support some great creators. So come on in and check us all out. All right, let's have a look at the stocks here before we get started. Looks like we had a little bit of a slide yesterday. It wasn't a huge deal. Well, 1.5% I guess is kind of a huge deal, but it was enough to bring attention to things, but not enough, I think, to say that we're crashing the economy again. So let's see what the investors have to say in this. From an advertisement, stock price is right, when to make winning trades, free webinar. Free webinar. Not happening right now. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones Futures, coronavirus stock market rally, steps back, but for how long? Facebook, Tesla, NIO, move on news. Dow Jones Futures rose Wednesday morning along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures. The coronavirus stock market rally stepped back after several days of gains amid soaring COVID-19 cases and a slight uptick in deaths. Yeah, they actually said that it was a slight uptick because it doesn't seem like anybody really cares too much about anything else right now other than the fact that there are cases and cases and cases abound. Facebook stock was in focus overnight after ad boycott organizers said a meeting with Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg was a disappointment. Facebook stock fell slightly. Before the open, Tesla stock rose slightly while Chinese luxury electric vehicle rival NIO jumped towards a record high amid Chinese electric vehicle sales data. Tesla stock extended its huge advance Tuesday while NIO stock soared. Even more speculative electric vehicle plays take a breather. On Tuesday, Vertex Pharmaceuticals cleared at least one buy point, along with online bond platform Market Access. Snapchat parent Snap rose as the U.S. mulls whether to ban the popular TikTok app. Yeah, I couldn't even get that onto the stack today because there was so much else going on here. So we're going to put a bookmark on that and make sure we talk about that tomorrow. Owned by China's ByteDance, Snap stocks jumped to an all-time high. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals and Novavax both hit 52-week highs after getting U.S. government funding for their coronavirus treatments. Vertex stock and Tesla stock are on IBD leaderboard. Regeneron stock is on Swing Trader. Vertex stock and Facebook stock are on the IBD 50 list. Market Access stock is on the IBD long-term leaders watch list. For the futures today, Dow futures climbed 0.1% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.5%. Remember, overnight action in the Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So we're seeing a little bit of ups and downs here as we go along. But on top of that, we've got some other dissenting voices, of course. From CNBC from yesterday, S&P 500 falls for the first time in 6 days. NASDAQ retreats from record high, from Fred Imbert and Yoon Lee. Stocks fell on Tuesday as a rally in mega-cap stock shares lost steam and concerns about the coronavirus outbreak dampened investor sentiment. The S&P 500 slid 1.1% to 3145.32, while the Nasdaq Composite, which hit a record high earlier in the day, closed 0.9% lower at 10,343.89. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 396.85 or 1.5% to 25,890.18. Shares of Amazon fell 1.9% to reach lead tech lower. Netflix closed 0.1% lower after hitting a record earlier in the day. Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook ended the session off their highs. Both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 snapped 5-day winning streaks. The Dow posted its first decline in 3 sessions. This market is way overbought, said Peter Cardillo, chief market economist at Sparta Capital Securities. The market has been ignoring the potential problems that are going to arise from the coronavirus. Stocks tied to the economy reopening from the coronavirus shutdowns were lower. Norwegian Cruise Lines and Carmel Core were lower by more than 5% each. American Airlines and United Airlines fell 6.95% and 7.6% respectively. And I do have to sit back and wonder how much of this has to do with the Blackout Tuesday that they tried to do again yesterday, where nobody better spend anything or else. For the whole day, nobody better spend anything or we'll come and get you, because we want to show them how bad the economic impact would be if nobody spent any money. Well, I spent money, so screw you. Because I like spending money, especially when you tell me not to. So there are a couple things at play here. We'll be seeing what happens out of this, and the futures are down currently, but we'll see what happens as we go into the regular market for the day. All right, I want to start off where we left off yesterday, where I said that I wanted to sit and listen to this. So let me get the headphones onto here and see what it is that Don Lemon actually had to say. Coming to me from Twitter from Mike Cernovich. Turn yours on, and here we go.
Terry,
I became sick. Like if I told you to wear a mask,
but Terry,
they want to kick you out.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying on Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should adapt that. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about. It's not an all-encompassing. So if you're talking about, if someone started a movement that said, cancer matters, and then someone comes in and says, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing. We're talking about cancer. So the Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality and injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in black neighborhoods. There are people who are working on that issue, and if you want to start that issue, why don't you start it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
But when you look at the organization, police brutality is not the only thing they're talking about.
I know that, but I agree, but that's not what the Black Lives Matter movement is about, Terry. Black Lives Matter is about police brutality and about criminal justice. It's not about what happens in communities when it comes to crime, black on black crime. People who live near each other, black people, kill each other. Same as whites. 80-some% of white people are killed by white people because of proximity.
Very true.
It's the same thing with black people. That happens in every single neighborhood. But that doesn't, again, I'm not saying that's not important that those kids died, but it's a different movement.
Wow. I can't believe he didn't get pulled off the air for saying that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. He's coming out absolutely and saying, yeah, it doesn't matter that black people are killing each other en masse on the streets. None of that matters. So it's just a matter of going after this for police brutality, which means tearing down the state. Yeah, he said it right out loud, and that's really surprising. I can't believe they didn't pull him off of there. All right, I'm going to hang on to that so we can talk about that on Monday here. So remind me on that one here. But let's keep moving on here. Police charge duo with hate crime for painting over Black Lives Matter mural on public streets. From Ryan Savedra over at the Daily Wire. Law enforcement officials in California charged a man and a woman with hate crime on Tuesday for allegedly painting over a Black Lives Matter mural that was painted on a public street. The Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office announced that Nicole Anderson, 42, and David Nelson, 53, were being charged with 3 misdemeanor counts, including a hate crime for the incident, which allegedly happened on Saturday. Hate crime. On July 1st, a local Martinez resident applied for a permit to paint a Black Lives Matter temporary mural on downtown Martinez. On front of the Wakefield Taylor Courthouse, the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office said in a statement, the permit was approved by the city of Martinez and the painting was done on July 4th. Anderson covered up a Black Lives Matter mural with black paint. The statement added, Nelson directly aided in the alleged criminal conduct. The incident was captured on video by witness. Nelson and Anderson arrived at the scene of the mural after it was completed with paint supplies. The statement continued. Anderson started to paint over the yellow letters B and L and the word black. She used black paint and a large paint roller to do so. The video has been shared widely by witnesses and shared on social media. Nelson and Anderson were charged with violation of civil rights, vandalism under $400, and possession of tools to commit vandalism or graffiti. If convicted, they face up to a year in county jail, but are currently exempt from a specific bail amount due to the current county bail schedule in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Immediately following the incident, the Martinez Police Department released a statement that said the community spent a considerable amount of time putting the mural together only to have it painted over in a hateful and senseless manner. So, a couple things at play here, a couple things going on. First off, if you open up the city street to be a forum, then it's going to be a forum for everybody. But on the other side of it, when they painted it on there, they did paint it by permission. They got a permit to do so, which I understand is a big thing in California if you want to go out and paint on the streets. So, first off, I don't think Martinez was definitely or necessarily in the right, but they did apply for the permit. So, but on the other end of it, just let the stupidity reign, people. Why do you have to go back and paint over it? Why do it? Let these people show the other people what their movement means when people start driving over it, putting skid marks over it, instead of going to try and paint over the damn thing. And they were trying to cover up the letters, too, fully, instead of just blacking over the whole area. That was the one that got me. Because, I mean, if you were going to actually try and do something about this, and this goes back, kind of harkens back to something that I saw when I was growing up. During my senior year of high school, towards the end, no, it was junior year, I'm sorry, towards the end, on the road that I went to high school on, somebody painted in huge block letters, 7 raped me. Now, I never figured out who did it. Didn't care really either. I moved away for the most part. But I do remember they actually took road tar and tarred over it in great big blocks. So you could still see that everything was there. And you can actually, from the last time I drove there, I believe you can still see the markings from where they put that there. So they just paved over the top of it and kept everything going there. But it was in big blocks, so you couldn't go back and make out the letters again. But as far as this goes, your movement's going to be over once people start driving over this thing again, and I don't understand why you would want to paint it on the road. What is the thing with roads, other than the fact that the people on the left love them so much? Why do you want to go paint your mural and do everything else on the road? I don't understand what your obsession is with the road. Fuck those hoe-ass roads, as a wise bearded man once said. So that's what I have on this, and we will see what the lawyers have to say on this, because I can't believe that they're actually going to put somebody up for a hate crime for this. But this is California and stranger things have happened. Alright, let's keep going here. From CNBC, Raphael Bostic, the Fed's first black president, says racism has economic impacts from Jeff Cox. The Federal Reserve has a role to play in ending systemic racism in the views of the central bank's first black regional president. In an essay on the site of the Atlanta Fed, where Raphael Bostic presides, he said the organization has multiple ways it can help in the battle for equality. I believe in the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, and the Federal Reserve more generally can play an important role in helping to reduce racial inequalities and bring about a more inclusive economy, Bostic wrote recently. We can do this first by fulfilling the mission to give us, which is to promote the health of the U.S. economy and the stability of the U.S. financial system. Racism, he said, has taken an economic toll. Racism! By limiting economic and educational opportunities for a large number of Americans, institutionalized racism constrains this country's economic potential, Bostic wrote. The economic contributions of these Americans in the form of work product and innovation will be less than they otherwise could have been. Systemic racism is a yoke that drags on the American economy. He made the remarks following the national protests that sparked the death in police custody of George Floyd, a Minneapolis man whose passing generated a national conversation over institutional racism. Bostic also mentions Breonna Taylor, who was not mentioned at the time that she was killed, Ahmaud Arbery, who nobody remembers because justice is actually going along with that, Dana Martin, who I have no idea who it is, and sadly many others who are victims of apparent or alleged bias. This country has both a moral and economic imperative to end these unjust and destructive practices, he said. It is time for the cycle to stop. It is time for us to collectively embrace the promise of an inclusive America, one where everyone can participate fully. The Fed itself has come under criticism over the years for the lack of diversity in its leadership. Bostic came to the Fed only in 2017, and before that no Fed chairs nor any regional presidents had been black. Fed leaders are also routinely pressed during congressional appearances to do more to eliminate discriminatory lending practices at the banks that it supervises. Oh my God, we're going to do it again. We're going to have the Clinton recession once again. And there's more going on with the Fed and the presidency right now, which I don't know enough about to opine on. But it's something that I'm researching to see what it is that we have to talk about with it. There is something going on, I will say that. I'm going to research this a bit more and talk to my original source to figure out what's going on with it before I present it to you. But look for that story coming up in the future. And I actually want to figure out where my video is playing here. There it is. Because I'm going to save this one here too. But I got another one here from Reuters. Fed's Bostic says U.S. recovery may be leveling off. FT interview. Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank President Raphael Bostic said the U.S. economic recovery is in danger of stalling due to the recent spike in coronavirus cases across many American states. High-frequency data had shown a leveling off of economic activity, both in terms of business openings and mobility, he told the Financial Times newspaper in an interview published on Tuesday. There are a couple things that we are seeing, and some of them are troubling and might suggest the trajectory of this recovery is going to be a bit bumpier than it might otherwise, he told the newspaper. And so we're watching this very closely, trying to understand what's happening. California, Texas, and Florida are all among 24 U.S. states reporting high infection rates as a percentage of diagnostic tests conducted over the past week, an alarming sign the virus is still spreading largely unchecked throughout much of the country. The U.S. death toll from the virus has topped 130,000, Reuters calculations showed. So, yeah. A couple things going on there as well. They're going to keep trying to shove this coronavirus thing down you until you say that you do not want to go back to work. All right, let's keep going down the road here. I saw this coming. This hit right as I was getting ready to go live, and I wanted to make sure that this got on the stack because I thought you guys would have a laugh at it. So, from Newsweek, Karen Act, San Francisco lawmaker wants to make discriminatory 911 calls illegal. A San Francisco lawmaker is proposing a legislation that would make racially exploitative calls to 911 illegal in the wake of repeated cases of white people calling police on black people for participating in normal activities. San Francisco Supervisor Shaman Walton introduced the proposed ordinance on Tuesday, dubbing it the Caution Against Racially Exploitative Non-Emergencies Act, or the Karen Act. Wow, you had to reach for that one. The ordinance's acronym, Karen, appears to be a nod to the name Karen, which has become a moniker for white women who call police on black people for no justifiable reason. No, that's not what it means. It's the woman that wants to speak to the manager all the time. If you're going to meme right. The left can't meme for shit. This is the Karen we need, Walton said in a tweet about the legislation. In a statement, Walton said the law would have help protect the rights of communities of color who are often targeted and victims of fraudulent emergency calls, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Generally, he said, the Karen Act will make it unlawful for an individual to contact law enforcement solely to discriminate on the basis of a person's race, ethnicity, religious affiliation, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. The proposed legislation comes as Amy Cooper, a white woman who called 911 on Christian Cooper, a black bird watcher, after he asked her to put her dog on a leash in Central Park, faces charges for filing a false police report. Yeah, nobody was in the right on that. Still, to this day, that was two stupid people being stupid to each other. The incident unfolded on May 25th, the same day that George Floyd died, after a white police officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes during an arrest over a counterfeit $20 note. And we're just going to go back and talk about how Floyd's death sparked nationwide protests and conversations again. So, the Karen Act, folks. This is what it's actually going to be. Alright, let's keep going. From Breitbart, who I don't normally use here, but I found this one interesting. Alyssa Milano pushes Black Lives Matter effort to defund LAPD by 90%. Actress and far left activist Alyssa Milano is attacking the union that represents rank-and-file members of the LAPD. The Hollywood star is also promoting an effort from Black Lives Matter activists called People's Budget LA, which would defund the LAPD by 90%. Alyssa Milano tweeted her attack on the LA Police Protective League on Monday, smearing it as a narrow special interest group whose goal is to lobby politicians to protect the LAPD's budget and pensions. Fact check, that's what any public sector union is, no matter whether it's the police, the teachers, who I'm sure that you have less to say about, or the guy who plows your snow, which, I'll grant the fact that you don't have to worry much about that in Los Angeles, but the people that plow your snow under the same kind of union, and that union does the exact same thing. She also tweeted out the hashtag protect people, not police. What do you think police are? Do you think they're just a different species? Or, well, are you dehumanizing them so you can call them a different species, so you can mass exterminate them? That's the question I have to ask there. The LAPPL has been fighting with Mayor Eric Garcetti over his anti-police rhetoric and plans to defund the department in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests and riots. Garcetti called LAPD officers killers at a recent meeting with local black leaders. How long do you think Garcetti stays in his position? The mayor has made good on his threat to defund the LAPD, with the city council voting last week to slash the department's budget by $150 million. But the amount isn't nearly enough for BLM activists who are pushing for even more drastic cuts. Leader of Black Lives Matter LA have launched an alternate fiscal plan called the People's Budget LA that calls for the vast majority of LAPD funding to be redirected to a community safety effort and other initiatives. Who keeps the community safe, though, is the question. The People's Budget LA calls for LAPD's budget to be reduced to a mere 1.64% of the city's general spending, down from 16.2% during the 2019-2020 fiscal year. That will represent a 90% reduction in LAPD funding. Alyssa Milano is calling on her 3.7 million Twitter followers to sign a petition in support of the People's Budget LA. She also encouraged her followers to take part in a social media pressure campaign on Monday against the LA Police Protective League. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you just reduce the number of laws, you wouldn't need to have so many police. Because we have way too many laws on the books. If you reduce the number of laws, so you're not going and busting down a door for a guy smoking a joint, think of how fewer police departments you would need and how much less money you would need for the departments. If the only thing that they're dealing with is actual property crime of one person aggressing on somebody else's property. So this is what they're trying to do. It makes me almost want to support the police. Almost. Not quite there yet. Alright. Let's keep moving on here. I got another video here to tell you, and then we'll read the story for This is from that insufferable dude, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, who always shows up when I look at something trending. I don't know why this guy got so famous, but I don't know who he is. He's some sort of author or something, but he has this video up here. And then I've got a Newsweek article talking a bit about what happened in the video. So let's turn your ears back on and let's listen to what happened.
You're 6 feet away from you.
You're harassing me.
I'm not harassing you. You're
I
coming
feel
close to me.
threatened.
You're coming close to
Back
me.
off! Threaten me again! Back the fuck up! Put your fucking phone down!
You're
Alright, so the guy came out and clearly yelled that he felt threatened. And we'll be watching this video once again on Monday, so prepare for more of that there. But let's see what Newsweek has to say about this here from Newsweek. Florida man yells, "I feel threatened" at Costco customers who ask him to wear a mask. From Khalida Rahman. A man at Costco store in Florida was filmed yesterday that he felt threatened by a customer who reportedly asked him to wear a mask. The brief clip went viral after it was posted on Twitter by Florida-based documentary film director Billy Corbin. Florida man at Fort Myers Costco in Running the World Since 1776 shirt flips out on elderly woman who asked him to wear a mask, and man who defended her, Corbin wrote alongside the video. The clip starts as a male voice is heard telling the man, "We are 6 feet away from you." Florida man. But the man responds, "You're harassing me and my family, and I feel threatened." He is then seen approaching the camera and yelling, "I feel threatened. Back off. Threaten me again. Back the fuck up. Put your fucking phone down." Corbin's video has amassed almost 900,000 views since it was posted online late on Monday. In a follow-up tweet, Corbin said the incident took place at the Costco in the Gulf Coast Town Center, a shopping mall in Fort Myers. He added that one of the customers involved said the Costco employee escorted the man in the video out of the store. To give Costco credit, they escorted him out and made me wait out inside and monitored him until he left and then sent someone with me to the car to make sure I'm okay, the customer said, according to Corbin. Corbin and Costco have been contacted for additional comment. So, and I've always said, if you want to do business with a company that requires a mask, then wear the mask. And as far as I know, Costco has not lifted their rule. So you are still required to wear a mask if you go into Costco. Otherwise, if you don't want to play by the rules of the private industry, don't do business with the industry. Or not the industry, but the company. Don't do business with that company if you don't agree with them, because they don't deserve your money at that point. So the dude shouldn't just be going in there to begin with, but I'm on the side of Corbin and the person videotaping at that point. If that's still Costco's rule, then he should have the mask on. Now, if it's not, then they had no business to come out and say that to him, of course, or harass him onto this, but a lot of this does revolve around what's going on with Costco and what they have for rules. And yes, we are going to watch this again on Monday and get some commentary off of this. Maybe this will be libertarian hate. I don't know. Kind of want to surprise Elaine with this. So I don't want to put it in the show notes, but we'll see what happens off of this. Alright, let's see. From Reuters once again. China slams U.S. as it joins Global Arms Trade Treaty at the UN, from Michelle Nichols. China on Monday joined a global arms trade treaty spurned by the United States, taking a swipe at U.S. President Donald Trump's administration by accusing it of bullying, unilateralism, and undermining efforts to combat global challenges. Oh, China said that. Wow. China's UN ambassador, Zhang Jun, said he had deposited China's instrument of accession to the treaty, which regulates a $70 billion global cross-border trade in conventional arms and seeks to keep weapons out of the hands of human rights abusers, like China. China, which announced its plans in September, became the 107th party to the pact, approved by the UN General Assembly in 2013. Then U.S. President Barack Obama signed it, but it was opposed by the National Rifle Association and never ratified by the U.S. Senate. Trump said in April last year that he intended to revoke the status of the UN as a signatory. In July 2019, the UN told Secretary General Antonio Guterres that Washington did not intend to become a party to the treaty, that it had no legal obligations from its 2013 signature. Without naming the United States, but amid escalating tensions between Beijing and Washington, Zhang said in a statement that a certain country walked away from international commitments and launched acts of unilateralism and bullying. This has brought huge uncertainties to the global strategic balance and stability and seriously undermined the joint efforts of all countries to tackle global challenges, he said, adding that the major powers need to set an example by contributing to safeguarding the international order, the rule of law, the rule of the UN, and multilateralism. China is saying this, people. The U.S. mission to the UN did not immediately respond to a request for comments on Zhang's remarks. China was the fifth largest global arms exporter between 2014 and 2018, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, although China itself does not publish figures for how many arms it exports. Yeah, they're going to be a manufacturing giant, and then they're going to go back and supply the world at this point. So, yeah, they looked at that with, they're going to slam the U.S., but they're going to do it with big dollar signs in their eyes. So this is going to make the world an interesting place for the next few years at least. Alright, let's keep going here from the Hill. Trump
The White House
administration
has
moves to
officially
formally
withdrawn the
withdraw
United States from the World Health Organization,
Brett
a senior
Samuels.
administration official confirmed Tuesday, breaking ties
The
with
White
the
House
global
has
public
officially
health
moved
body
to
in
withdraw
the middle of the
the United
coronavirus
States
pandemic.
from the World
The
Health
U.S.
Organization.
withdrawal is
A senior
effective as of
administration
Monday
official
and has been
confirmed Tuesday,
submitted to the
breaking
United
ties with a
Nations
global
Secretary
public health
General,
body
the
in the
official
middle of
said
the
Tuesday.
coronavirus
Senator
pandemic.
Robert Menendez,
The
the
U.S.
top
has submitted
Democrat
its
on the
withdrawal
Senate Foreign Affairs
notification to the
Committee,
UN
tweeted that the
Secretary
administration
General.
informed Congress
The
of the
official
withdrawal.
said withdrawal
Quote, to call
requires a
Trump's
year's notice,
response
so
to
will not go
COVID
into
chaotic
effect
and
until July
incoherent
6,
doesn't do it
2021,
justice. This
raising
won't
the
protect
possibility
American
that the
lives
decision
or
could be
interests.
reversed,
It leaves
and
Americans sick
also
and America
giving
alone,
the fact
the
that this is
senator
going to be what
tweeted.
Joe Biden runs on as we come up into the election.
I think the more
Senator
we tell
Bob
the
Menendez,
stories
the
of
top Democrat
LGBTQ
on the Senate
Americans who
Foreign
are
Relations
suffering
Committee, tweeted
because
that
they're
the
being
administration
discriminated
informed
against in
Congress of the
housing
withdrawal plans.
or in employment,
To call Trump's response
or
to
because
COVID
they want
chaotic
to
and
adopt a
incoherent
child and they're
doesn't
not
do it
allowed to
justice.
adopt
This
a
won't protect
child
American
because
lives or interests.
adoptions are run
It leaves
by
Americans
religious
sick and America
organizations that
alone, the
prohibit
senator
it.
tweeted.
It's not right, and so we just need to continue to tell the
I have
stories
video
of
playing
those.
and I still have your ears on. So let's take care of both of those here. The formal notification of withdrawal concludes months of threats from the Trump administration to pull up the United States out of the WHO, which is affiliated with the United Nations. President Trump has repeatedly assailed the organization for alleged bias toward China and its slow response to the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan. But public health experts and Democrats have raised alarms, of course they have, that the decision may be short-sighted and could undercut the global response to the pandemic, which has infected 11.6 million people worldwide. The U.S. has the highest number of reported cases in the world at nearly 3 million. They have also argued that some of the WHO's initial missteps can be attributed to China's lack of transparency in the early stages of the outbreak. I disagree with the President's decision, Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Chair Lamar Alexander said in a statement. Certainly there needs to be a good hard look at the mistakes the World Health Organization might have made in connection with the coronavirus, but the time to do that is after the crisis has been dealt with, not in the middle of it, which means after the election. Because you know this is going to disappear after it's not an election year anymore. So, yeah, we are on our way out of the WHO, and it's kind of beautiful. All right. From the LA Times, speaking of coronavirus, Tom Hanks baffled by people who don't take COVID-19 seriously. It's killing people. COVID-19 survivor Tom Hanks has a message for anyone unwilling to do their part to stop the spread of the respiratory illness. Appearing Tuesday on NBC's Today, Hanks reflected on his own early bout with the coronavirus and questioned why some people weren't taking the pandemic seriously. He also discussed his forthcoming World War II drama, Greyhound, which debuts Friday on Apple TV. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID-19. The idea of doing one's part, though, should be so simple. Wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, Hanks told Hodakotbi. That alone means you're contributing to the betterment of your house, your work, your town, your society as a whole, and it's such a small thing. It's a mystery to me how somehow that's been wiped off, what should have been ingrained in the behavior of us all. Though Hanks and his wife, actress Rita Wilson, were in awfully good hands and not afraid after testing positive for COVID-19, he didn't want to dismiss the severity of their symptoms. The pair became the first major stars to go public with diagnoses in March, while visiting Australia for an upcoming Elvis Presley biopic starring Hanks as Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker. We felt rotten, Hanks said. I had body aches, crippling, crackling body aches. The Australian officials put us in the hospital. They kept very strict attention to our fevers because they had spiked. We were going to be in trouble, our lungs, because they had filled up or scarred. We were going to be in trouble, and the levels of our oxygen. So Tom Hanks is telling you how to feel, which, unless he's playing Forrest Gump, I have no interest in Tom Hanks telling me how to feel. But realistically on this, of course, this goes along with, something I observed early on here. I said towards the beginning of all of this, I think it was towards the end of March, I said on Twitter that I am looking forward to getting the COVID-19 so I don't ever have to worry about it again. Because I'm 36 now, but I was 35 years old at the time and in pretty good health, which meant that this was most likely not going to affect me in a major way. So, I wanted to get it, and boy did that piss off the left. They want you to be afraid of this to death. Like, they want you to be afraid to go out of your house because you might get this, and getting COVID-19 is an automatic death sentence if you listen to them. Like, as soon as they tell you have COVID-19, it's like the ring and somebody, the phone rings and you pick it up and you hear 7 days on the other end of the phone. That's what they want you to believe that all of this is, and they get pissed when you're not afraid of it. So, thank you, Tom Hanks, for trying to tell us to be afraid of the COVID-19 once again, but nobody cares, once again, unless you're playing Forrest Gump. Alright, speaking of COVID-19, over in my neck of the woods, from Madison.com, indoor face mask mandate to start Monday in Dane County, from David Wahlberg. Face masks will be required indoors except at home in Dane County starting Monday, officials said Tuesday, announcing Wisconsin's first mask mandate in response to a recent increase in COVID-19 cases, especially among young adults and those who have attended large gatherings. An order from Public Health Madison and Dane County starting at 8 a.m. Monday will require everyone age 5 and older to wear a face covering or mask in any enclosed building where other people could be present, except in a person's own home or living unit. This order applies to businesses, healthcare settings, waiting in line, public transportation, and even visits to other people's homes. Some people with conditions that prevent them from wearing masks are exempt, as are certain activities, such as eating at a restaurant, but physical distancing of 6 feet is required for such activities. Public health research now shows that face coverings are critical to slowing the spread of COVID-19, after they said for weeks that you shouldn't go buy the mask and it doesn't do shit. Jana Heinrich, Director of Public Health Madison and Dane County, said in a statement, "Given our current number of COVID-19 infections in our county, we need to all be wearing face coverings every time we leave the house." If that wasn't a good reason not to go to Madison, I don't know what is. And I already have a lot of good reason not to go to Madison, but there is yet another good reason not to go to Dane County, which is only like 25 miles that way to the county line, so hell, I'll go around Dane County at this point, which there's some pretty good routes to go around. See, the thing with Dane County is they're the progressive hotspot of our state and probably our region. They, as far as progressivism, probably far outshadow Chicago and even Milwaukee at this point. Dane County had a brief temporary gun ban that got overruled as constitutional, where you couldn't even carry a gun through the county. Like if you were coming from Kenosha going up to Buffalo County or something to go hunting, you couldn't drive through Dane County with a gun in your car. So there are plenty of routes to go around the county, which I will be taking advantage of the next time I go to my mom and dad's, which will be in a couple weeks. Because there's no reason to go there anymore. Just don't spend money there, don't go there, don't buy anything. And leave it to the progressives and the liberals. If that's what they want to do, then that's what they're going to do. But yes, you are required to have a face mask. And I will be, because I used to work in Madison, be talking to my former coworkers and asking them how it is. Because that's funny. Alright, let's keep going here. From the Daily Caller, Ilhan Omar calls for dismantling of U.S. economy, political system. From William Davis, Democratic Minnesota Rep. Ilhan Omar called for the dismantling of the U.S. economy and political system on Tuesday, As long as our economy and political systems prioritize profit without considering who is profiting, who is being shut out, we will perpetuate this inequality, Omar said. We cannot stop a criminal justice system. We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it. Some people dismantled something. Omar held an event Tuesday in her home state of Minnesota with members of the Minnesota People of Color and Indigenous Caucus. Omar tweeted earlier Tuesday that the purpose of the event was to address racism in policing in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. Omar has joined calls from local Democratic leaders to defund the police after 4 Minneapolis police officers were fired and charged in connection to Floyd's death. The Minneapolis City Council unanimously voted to get rid of the city's police department in June. Oh, I still can't wait to see how that turns out. Omar said she supported the vote because she believes the Minneapolis Police Department is beyond reform. You can't really reform a department that is rotten to the root, Omar said at the time. What you can do is rebuild. And so this is our opportunity, as a city to come together. We had the conversation of what public safety looks like, who enforces the most dangerous crimes that take place in our community. So, yeah, this is another one who's sitting in Congress and says, burn the whole system down. Don't even try and fix it. We're just going to bust it all and start over. But, of course, when they bust it all and start over, it's going to be a massive government overreach plan instead of something that's more individually based and more locally based, which it should be. So, absolutely look forward to Ilhan Omar putting that bill forward to say, yes, we will have the government involved in all of your life. And I've got another one on this particular woman here from the New York Post. Ilhan Omar has paid new husband's consulting firm $878,000 filing a show. Representative Ilhan Omar has continued quietly funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to her new husband's consulting firm, including a $189,000 windfall in March, just weeks after they announced they had tied the knot. Campaign data shows. The payments between the Minneapolis Democratic Congresswoman and Tim Minette prompted at least one ethics complaint in 2019 after the Post first revealed allegations made by Minette's then-wife in her divorce filing that Omar was having an affair with the member of the political consulting team who was at the time married to another woman. Omar was married to her second husband, or her brother, at the time. But that doesn't appear to have stopped the now married couple with Minette's E Street Group. E Street Group, really? You've got to sully the name of Bob Seger like that? Come on. Collecting $292,814.99 from his wife's campaign this year for digital advertising, fundraising, consulting, and research services, according to the Federal Election Commission filings. In total, Minette had received a whopping $878,930.65 from Omar's campaign since he began working for her in 2018, raising eyebrows among watchdogs and political law experts who say the practice is rife with cronyism. Oh, it's not just cronyism. The majority of these payments were made after the Somali-born lawmaker's victory in the solidly Democratic seat at the November 2018 midterm elections. Omar is by far the E Street Group's biggest client, according to Open Secrets data, with nearly 1 in every 3 of Omar's campaign dollars going to her alleged lover's firm as of last August, according to the Washington Examiner. The FEC allows lawmakers to hire family members or spouses to work on their campaigns, making the arrangement technically above board. But multiple political experts told the Post Tuesday they believe the practice should be outlawed. The practice should be outlawed first off, and this is why. First off, as the already conservative pointed out right as they got married, these people never, ever, ever can be forced to testify against each other again, even if they get a divorce. No court can compel them to testify against each other. Second off, as a married couple, down the split 50-50. Omar has a clear shot at that money, once again. So once the donations come into the campaign, she pays them out to Minette's firm, where they're laundered, and now they're just simply profit for Minette that go into his pocket, and now it's a marital asset. So now it's 50-50. So she is using this firm to embezzle money, essentially. Or, I'm sorry, I can't make that allegation definitively. It appears that she could use this firm to embezzle money. I see you, Susan WikiWiki. Oh, somebody's out on the Jake breaks out there. I don't know if you can pick that up on the microphone, but I can hear it. All right, let's keep going on down here because, yeah, there's so much going on with this, and this is the same woman who just said, let's dismantle the whole system. All right, a little bit of something here that may lead a little bit into what we've been seeing over the past few weeks. Chief Justice Roberts' injured head in fall last month was hospitalized. From Dom Colicchio. U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts spent a night in a hospital last month after injuring his forehead in a fall near his home, Fox News has confirmed. After the injury, Roberts' head was covered in blood, a source told the Washington Post, which first broke the story. Roberts fell while taking a walk in Maryland Country Club, the report said. The Chief Justice, 65, has a history of seizures, having suffered such health events in 1993 and 2007, but the doctors determined that last month's fall did not result from seizure, Supreme Court spokeswoman Kathleen Arberg told the Post. Instead, doctors believe Roberts suffered some lightheadedness because of dehydration, the report said. Roberts was taken to a hospital by ambulance after the June 21st incident at the Chevy Chase Club. His injury was serious enough to require an unspecified number of stitches, according to the report. He was released from the hospital the following morning. Arberg released the following statement to Fox News. The Chief Justice was treated at a hospital on June 21st for an injury to his forehead sustained in a fall while walking for exercise near his home. The injury required sutures and an out-of-abundance caution. He stayed in the hospital overnight and was discharged the next morning. His doctors ruled out a seizure. They believe the fall was likely due to lightheadedness caused by dehydration. So, I don't do much on the 4chan conspiracy theories, but if you're into that kind of thing, there is one of them posted in my Discord. You can go check that out. Midget B put that up in there, so I'm not going to flaunt too much about that out here, but we do notice the fact that he fell down and he hit his head and he made a series of terrible decisions immediately afterwards, siding with the left wing of the court. So there are a couple things going on here that we need to think about, and I did think that we needed to hear the fact that Justice Roberts did fall down and hurt his head. So I've got that in there, and we'll see what happens out of this. I wonder if they can overturn some of the decisions if he was mentally compromised at some point. And yeah, you can't see the news story here because my picture is over it right now, but down in the corner, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts' role as the court's new swing vote has become abundantly apparent. Alright, so I've got that in there. Let's keep moving on here. From Breitbart again, which I was a little bit surprised from this, leftists condemn arch-leftist Noam Chomsky for defending free speech. Left-wingers attacked radical leftist intellectual Noam Chomsky on Tuesday after he co-signed a statement in Harper's criticizing cancel culture several days after President Donald Trump did the same in his Mount Rushmore speech. Several verified blue checkmark users on Twitter were outraged that Chomsky, 91, should agree with Trump, albeit indirectly, or that he would push back against the left-wing efforts to deny platforms to those who dispute its orthodoxies. The Harper statement, titled A Letter on Justice and Open Debate, including Chomsky, J.K. Rowling, and others. While attacking President Donald Trump is a real threat to democracy, the statement warned that it is now all too common to hear calls for swift and severe retribution in response to perceived transgressions of speech and thought. The result, they warned, was that the fight for left-wing causes was being undermined. Many on the left were irritated by Chomsky. Carlos Maza, the first one. Friendship ended with Noam Chomsky. Now, no gods, no masters is my best friend. Yeah, okay. You've never met a god that you didn't want to have stuck in your ass. Let's see if I get taken down from YouTube for that. In his speech, Trump attacked the left's cancel culture. One of their political weapons is cancel culture, driving people from their jobs, shaming dissenters, and demanding total submission from anyone who disagrees. This is the very definition of totalitarianism and is completely alien to our culture and our values and has absolutely no place in the United States of America. So apparently Joel Pollak decided he needed to have an editorial in the end of this. But, I mean, he's right on this, and the fact that they're going so far as to go after Chomsky now, who was, I thought, one of their prophets. But now they want to cancel him as well because he's not trending the line far enough. The Overton window is going to shift at this point. I mean, lifelong Union Democrats in their 60s, 70s, and 80s don't want to vote for Democrats because they've pulled the party so far left. And we have other people on the left that's saying that there is no far left movement because we're not trying to appropriate property from people, even though we're going to tax you to death and our presidential candidate has said so. There is a far left movement out there, and they've gone so far as to cancel Noam Chomsky. All right, another one here from the Associated Press. This is an interesting couple of stories that we have going on here, talking a bit about education and Betsy DeVos. Trump pushes state, local leaders to reopen schools in the fall. From Colin Binkley. President Trump Tuesday launched an all-out effort pressing state and local officials to reopen schools this fall, arguing that some are keeping schools closed not because of the risk from the coronavirus pandemic, but for political reasons. They think it's going to be good for them politically, so they keep the schools closed, Trump said at a White House discussion on school plans for the fall. No way. We're very much going to put pressure on governors and everyone else to open up the schools. The White House's roundtable gathered health and education leaders from across the nation who said schools and colleges are ready to open in the fall and can do so safely. They argued that the risks of keeping students at home outweigh any risks tied to the coronavirus, saying students need access to meal programs and mental and behavioral health services. Something I've never understood why students need access to meal programs, but that seems to be a thing in the inner city. We want to reopen the schools, Trump said. Everyone wants it. The moms want it. The dads want it. The kids want it. It's time to do it. But that bright outlook was met with skepticism by some beyond the White House. The president of the nation's largest education union said Trump is more interested in scoring points for November election than keeping students safe. Trump has proven to be incapable of grasping that people are dying, that more than 130,000 Americans, fact check needed, have already died, said Lily Eskelsen Garcia, president of the National Education Association. Educators want nothing more than to be back in classrooms and on college campuses with our students. But we must do it in a way that keeps students, educators, and communities safe. At the White House event, Trump repeated his claim that Democrats want to keep schools closed for political reasons and not health reasons. He made the same claim on Twitter a day before, saying they think it will help them in November. Wrong. The people get it. Trump offered no evidence for the allegation, which has been criticized by health experts who say politicizing the issue will make it harder to work towards reopening schools. Jennifer Nuzzo of Johns Hopkins University's COVID-19 Testing Insights Initiative said she was deeply troubled by the claim. When you make it about politics and just people trying to score points and get elected, I mean, I really think it's a disservice to how incredibly important the issue is, Nuzzo said in an interview, and it really distracts from what I think we need, which is real solutions and a plan in order to make this happen. Whether schools and colleges open this fall and how has been a topic of growing debate as the coronavirus continues to surge in parts of the U.S. Trump applauded Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for his state's recent order to open public schools this fall, and Trump attacked Harvard University for its decision to hold instruction online for the fall term. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's an easy way out. I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves if you want to know the truth, Trump said on Tuesday. So there's a lot going on with this, and DeVos was involved in this as well. DeVos also criticized many schools' attempts to distance education after the pandemic prompted them to move classes online last spring. She said she was disappointed in schools that didn't figure out how to serve students or who just gave up and didn't try. The same thing can't happen again this fall, she said, urging governors to play a role in getting schools to reopen. Among those joining Trump on Tuesday was the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, which recently issued guidelines suggesting schools aim to start the academic year physically present in school. Keeping students at home can lead to social isolation, the organization said, and prevent schools from identifying learning deficits, abuse, depression, and other issues. So there's a big fight going on here, of course, the state wanting to have total control over absolutely everything, meaning they have to have the kids in the schools so they can make the suggestion out of everything, and the fact that they want to continue to hold the coronavirus over people's heads and keep people locked in their homes forever, or at least until the election is over. And Styx brought up a good point yesterday, too. I was listening to his show early on in the morning, and he pointed out the fact that if you're distance learning, if you're doing the Zoom call or everything, what's to stop you from having another tab open and watching one of Styx's videos, or a person just saying, fuck this, I don't want to do that, or disrupting the class in general? Where do you send him? There's no principal's office anymore. This isn't going to be a long-term thing if you want schools to actually function the way that they should run. Now, I think homeschooling is a great idea, especially given the dismal nature of our school systems at this point. I think we should be moving into more homeschooling as much as we can, especially if people are going to start distance working as well. But we also have the state saying, well, we need to have people get their state-sanctioned indoctrination, and we have to have them in the chair to make sure that they're getting indoctrinated the possible way. So there are a couple factions at war here. But from the Detroit News, and this is really interesting to me, Nestle leads 4 states to sue DeVos on COVID-19 aid rule for private schools, from Craig Mauger and Melissa Nan Burke. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel is among a group of attorneys general suing Education Secretary Betsy DeVos over a policy requiring public school districts to split coronavirus relief funds with private school students. Nessel is partnering with the California Attorney General Javier Becerra to lead a coalition of states pursuing a lawsuit, which was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. Nessel said DeVos was erroneously and unlawfully misinterpreted language in the Federal CARES Act and disregarded the clear intentions of Congress, with the new rule resulting in the dilution of the amount of federal education aid available to public schools in Michigan by at least $16 million. There are more than 700 non-public schools in Michigan. Congress intended for school districts to share coronavirus funding with low-income students attending private schools in their districts, Nessel said. But DeVos has maintained that the CARES Act does not restrict aid to only poor students, and that all private school students are potentially eligible for the aid. Unfortunately, this most recent action by Secretary DeVos is just another example in a long history of an administration that uses any and every opportunity available to tip the scales in favor of private schools at the great expense of our public schools, Nessel said. We cannot and will not sit by on the sidelines while critical funding, specifically allocated based on low-income status, is allocated or allowed to be reallocated by counting students who have privileges and resources already available to them. Okay, this is going to sound a little bit radical to some people, and I said this on Twitter yesterday, but if you don't want to have to worry about mean old Betsy DeVos anymore, you could just dismantle the Department of Education. Get rid of the Department of Education, and you'll never have to worry about Betsy DeVos again. Let it the localities and the school boards that you all vote for, and you'll never have to worry about her again. This is just stupidity at this point. This is a government that's trying to pull funds away from students who sometimes need them because a lot of these states have choice in them, and give them to their wealthy donors in the teachers union. So, I can't even. I want to see how this one ends, and we'll make sure that this gets on the stack for Monday too, because I really want to see how my co-host has to, what she has to say about this. All right, I got a couple more here, and we are running up on the clock, so we got to keep moving here. From the Daily Wire, Kanye West praises Trump, hammers Planned Parenthood, likens COVID vaccine to the mark of the beast, from Amanda Prestigiacomo. Kanye West discussed his recent declaration that he will run for president in 2020 despite his close relationship and past support for President Donald Trump. During an extensive interview with Forbes magazine released Wednesday, West offered praise for Trump, claimed our nation is veering away from God, bashed abortion against giant Planned Parenthood, and talked about his skepticism of vaccines. Taking off his red hat for the interview to discuss a potential 2020 platform, the musician applauded Trump for allowing God to be a part of the national discourse. "Trumpy is the closest president we've had in years to allowing God to still be part of the conversation," he said. West also staunchly supported the pro-life position, hammering Planned Parenthood as a part of a white supremacist agenda. "I am pro-life because I'm following the words of the Bible," West asserted, adding, "Planned Parenthoods have been placed inside cities by white supremacists that do the devil's work." West also advocated for a more God-centered culture and for prayer to be back in schools. "Reinstate in God's country, the fear and love of God in all schools and organizations, and you chill the fear and love of everything else. So that was a plan by the devil to have our kids committing suicide at an all-time high by removing God. To have murders in Chicago at an all-time high because of human beings working for the devil. Remove God and prayer from the schools," he said. "That means more drugs and more murders and more suicide." West told the outlet that he has suffered from COVID-19 back in February and is extremely cautious about vaccines, calling a potential coronavirus vaccine the mark of the beast. "It's so many of our children that are going to be vaccinated and paralyzed. So when they say that we're going to fix COVID with a vaccine, I'm extremely cautious. That's mark of the beast," he referencing a symbolic passage in Revelation 13. "They want to put chips inside of us. They want to do all kinds of things to make it to where we can't cross the gates of heaven. I'm sorry when I say that the humans that that have the devil inside of them. And the saddest thing is that we all won't make it to heaven. And there'll be some of us that do not make it. Next question." So, I like this in mainstream media, and I do like the fact that Kanye is going to run. I don't know what's going to happen in 2020. And honestly, Kanye can't be any worse of a president than anybody else that we had run this year. Even Coconut Mommy herself. So I'm interested to see where this goes, and I don't know if this is going to hold Trump accountable for something, if this is going to hold the Democrats accountable to something, if this is going to tear votes away from Democrats, even if he can get onto the ballot, because he can't in some states. I'm really interested to see where this goes. All right. Just a couple more here. We'll do some quick hitters and do a thing I'm thankful for and head on out of here. All right, Amy Kennedy wins primary to take on Representative Jeff Van Drew, who defected to the GOP, from Greg Ree over at Fox News. Amy Kennedy, the wife of ex-Rhode Island Representative Patrick Kennedy and daughter-in-law of the late Senator Ted Kennedy, has won the Democratic primary in New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District, setting up a November showdown with GOP Rep. Jeff Van Drew, who defected from the Democratic Party amid their push to impeach President Trump. Kennedy, a local political novice who ran on expanding Obamacare, had the endorsement of Governor Phil Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, State Senator President Steve Sweeney, and the state's 2 U.S. Senators Cory Booker and Bob Menendez, backed one of Kennedy's opponents, Bridget Callahan Harrison. The 2nd Congressional District includes Atlantic City and leans conservative. Trump won the district in 2016 by fewer than 5 points. The race is rated lean Republican by the nonpartisan Cook Political Report. Van Drew overwhelmingly won his own primary race, notching more than 80% of the vote, with more than a third of precincts reporting. Meanwhile, Cory Booker has won New Jersey's Democratic Senate primary. The incumbent Booker had faced Lawrence Ham, who was running on Bernie Sanders' "Not Me, Us" slogan. Booker arrived in the Senate in 2013 after serving as mayor of Newark. So, Jeff Van Drew obviously went off and he defected, and a lot of people are not happy about that, but now he's going to go and win the primary, I guess. We'll have to see what happens I don't know, and this is the same thing that went on with Amash. We have to see if people like Jeff Van Drew or if they like the Democratic Party in that district. So, we'll see what happens out of this, and I'm sure that we'll be watching this one closely because of the Jeff Van Drew's defection away from the Democrat Party. All right, couple more. Some funny news and then some sad news. Plane carrying 860 pounds of cocaine crashes on Mexico highway, from Jorge Fitzgibbon out of the New York Post. A private plane carrying 860 pounds of cocaine worth nearly $4.9 million crash landed on a Mexican highway on Sunday, sending the narco traffickers scrambling into the woods to dodge police, according to a report. The Hawker 700, which Mexican authorities said they traced from Venezuela, came crashing down with its illicit cargo on a state highway Sunday morning in Quintana Roo in the Yucatan Peninsula. Mexican News Daily reported. Video of the burning wreckage posted on Twitter by Alberto Capella, the province's security minister, shows smoke billowing from the downed aircraft on the empty highway. The crew fled into the forest behind the military, reached the scene shortly after, or before the military reached the scene shortly before 8 a.m., but authorities said they recovered the drugs nearby when they stopped a truck that had been loaded up with the plane's cargo. Air Force officials told the Mexican newspaper Milenio, which originally reported the crash, that they began tracking the plane at about 5 a.m. after it took off from Maracaibo, Venezuela. They said the military T-6 Texan plane was sent to intercept the narco plane and ordered to land before it made the forced landing on the road. Authorities said it's not the first time narco traffickers were thwarted in the region. 2 planes carrying guns and cocaine were seized on consecutive days in January. I wonder how many Mexican people were happy when they saw that. When they saw all that cocaine just laying out on the road before the military got there. And Godspeed to those who tried to get away with it and are now going to be facing the completely fair Mexican criminal justice system. Alright, last one here on a slightly sadder note, unfortunately. I didn't mention this, I did mention it a bit on Twitter, but not on the show, but there was an Amber Alert that showed up Monday night after we got off the air from from the Red Net show. And it ended in regret. From Fox 6 Now out of Milwaukee, 10-year-old Baraboo girl found dead after Amber Alert. No one slept when we didn't locate her. From Suzanne Spencer. A 10-year-old girl missing from Baraboo, who was the subject of an Amber Alert, was found dead on Tuesday, July 7th. Police said the body of Cody Dutcher was found near County Highway T at 12th Street late Tuesday morning. The Amber Alert was issued late Monday, July 6th. Authorities said she left a note behind reading, "Mom, I love you, but I can't do it. Bye." She was suspected to have taken an unknown amount of pills as well. She left behind her cell phone and shoes. On Tuesday, Baraboo police indicated in a Facebook post that information was obtained from the initial search of the residence, suggested she threatened self-harm. She had taken medication not prescribed to her in a large enough amount that she could cause harm, said Captain Rob Sinden, Baraboo Police. Obviously, anytime you have any type of medication involvement of ingestion, that is going to speed things up quite a bit. We had to get resources there quickly. Dutcher had recently moved to Baraboo and, by all accounts, was a happy kid, said Sinden. It's a 10-year-old child, said Sinden. It's a tough thing. Whenever a mother is missing a 10-year-old child, there are feelings involved. These types of situations are difficult for all parties involved. They're especially difficult for families, and that's where our thoughts and feelings should be with our Cody's surviving family members. But we do have first responders who are affected as well. Police said they searched for nearly 12 hours on Monday and into Tuesday morning, assembling aircraft Tuesday, which could not be done Monday due to severe weather threats. We wanted aircraft because they can search out a greater area quickly, said Sinden. We could not get to those aircraft, so we called in a number of drone teams. Obviously, drones with forward-looking infrared radars, thermal imaging cameras are very helpful in these situations. So, this is a bit sad, and of course, a 10-year-old getting to this point. I can't even imagine this right now. And the feelings over with us on the Freedom Scoop Media Group go out to the Dutcher family in their loss, and I hope you find peace in what happened and can figure out what the reasoning is. And I know she's never going to be able to answer again, but I do hope that we can find a reason for all of this to happen. But we need to sit back and watch this as well, because this isn't the only one that's happening. It unfortunately happened to a child. But we're seeing a lot more of this, a lot more uptick. We saw it from the Everytown article yesterday, that there's a lot more suicide that's going on because people are locked down right now. So, to the Dutcher family, you have our condolences from the Freedom Scoop Media Group. And that is going to be it for news. And the last thing that we do on Wednesday is to do something that I'm thankful for. And as of right now, I am thankful for the fact. Well, I'm thankful for a couple things right now. First off, that we had a fairly safe and uneventful 4th of July. I actually got to go down, and we'll talk about it tomorrow when I do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, but I got to try a fondue restaurant for the first time, and I'm going to talk a little bit more extensively about that tomorrow as we get in. So, we had a fairly uneventful 4th of July. Not a lot of people lost their hands. I met a lot of people in my neighborhood for the first time, just walking around because there was no big gathering like there was going to be, like there had been every other year. So I got to meet a few people, but I know that Antifa was coming out and threatening to go out to the suburbs and rural areas, and none of that happened. It was fairly uneventful, and a lot of people stayed safe, and nobody got hurt from it, with the exception of the few people that are missing fingers at this point. And I am also thankful for the fact that the Supreme Court ruled in a way that laid the hammer down on the governor, because the governor went in an interview in my state and said that he wanted to go back and lock down again, but he was constrained by the Supreme Court of our state. He's actually not at this point. He could actually go back and open up a new lockdown again, especially if he went back and he worked with legislature. But because they came down and threw the ruling down, he's afraid to make any move at this point because he may be found in contempt and possibly recalled. And he's already faced down a couple of recall petitions. So there are a couple things I'm thankful for today, in spite of the bad news that we had to close all this out from. But it's a good thing. It's a good day to be alive, of course. And that is going to be it at this point. So I have actually got to bump out of here and get to work because I am way over time at this point, and part of that was waking up late again. So we will be back here tomorrow with more news, and after work today, I am going to make sure that I get the audios up. I'm not going to do the audios for the last 3 weeks, except for the Jessica Green episodes, because I really want to take some time and give her some thanks for sitting in for me a few weeks ago, so we'll get those. But I'm going to start on this week's Contemporary again, and that's going to be back to the audio platform, so I don't flood you guys to death for it. So come back and check us out tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.